So there's been quite an interesting development in the Chiefs running back room, with an unexpected riser making a legitimate push for the 53-man roster. And in this video, I'll break that down, talk about Hollywood Brown continuing to ball out nearly all of training camp, more players returning to practice today while a key player didn't practice at all, and more. But first, how about those? Alright, today's camp practice was much cooler than yesterday, roughly 30 degrees cooler at the start, which is pretty crazy, but great for the players. And right off the bat, it appears after 2 days of John Gruden being around, he was no longer spotted among the coaches donning Chiefs apparel, but another special guest was seen out there, with that being former Chiefs quarterback Trent. From what I understand, he still lives in the KC area, so it's always cool to see him around after all the fun memories he gave my childhood when he played for the Chiefs. I also got to share that defensive tackle Chris Jones, did not practice today. Andy Reid mentioned yesterday he's dealing with a shoulder stinger, so Chris being held out today isn't a big surprise. I just hope that injury isn't anything too serious. So, while one defensive tackle missed practice, another defensive tackle returned after a long absence, with that being Derek Nottie. I said in yesterday's video that Nottie looked so good training on the sideline during practice lately that we could see him return any day now, and he's back. It looks like he passed his physical and is now off the PUP list, which is great news. He missed pretty much all of OTAs and the first half of training camp due to a tricep injury, so this is a great step in the right direction for Nottie. He looked good out there during warm-ups and running drills, and will probably get ramped up as time goes on here. Another guy taking a nice step forward today is cornerback Jalen Watson. He came off the PUP earlier on in camp, but has since been in a yellow no-contact jersey, aside from Sunday's 10-10-10 practice, but that practice didn't allow contact, so doesn't really count. Yesterday, for example, he had the yellow jersey on, and that practice was in full pads. Well, today, the yellow no-contact jersey came off, and he looked pretty good out there. He was all over Nico Remigio on this 1v1, jumping the route for an easy INT. He was also spotted with the first-team defense at outside corner. Joshua Williams was then on the opposite side with McDuffie inside. And speaking of defensive backs, Coach Spags spoke to the media today about that cornerback 2 spot, saying they've got to fight through these injuries that are piling up on the defensive side of the ball. It's good to have Jalen Watson back, though, and Najee got some good reps in today as well, so that's been nice. However, he didn't seem satisfied with where things are at just yet. They want to see what they have in the room as the preseason goes on, who will be consistent, great at communication in the heat of battle, and then who can stand out from a toughness and tackling standpoint. He wants to see which guys are tough enough to play in this league, and is still looking to see who surfaces to become that cornerback 2. Meanwhile, the guaranteed cornerback 1 on the team, Trent McDuffie, continues showing out at camp. He had this awesome PBU deep down the right sideline, leaping to swipe the ball out of the hands of Hollywood Brown. More on Brown later, though, because he had some standout plays of his own. But next up, the players aside from Chris Jones that were not practicing today were as follows. Running back Clyde Edwards-Helaire had an illness. Then the only players who remain on the PUP or NFI lists are safety Justin Reed, quad, defensive end Charles Omenihu, ACL, and BJ Thompson, illness. Regarding Justin Reed, who hasn't practiced at all during training camp, Spags said Jay Reed would love to be out there, but they're being cautious with him. They don't want to rush him back and risk re-aggravating that injury. He then said he's working with Rick Burkholder on a time to return, and Spags ended the Justin Reed segment by saying, "We need him back out there." Well, the reports have been that Justin would probably miss all of training camp and preseason, with the beginning of the season being a question mark. So hopefully he's back out there for the season opener, which is in roughly a month, but it's hard to tell at this point in time. Kadarius Toney was a guy who recently came back after dealing with an ankle injury for a few days, and even though he left practice a bit early yesterday, riding in the front of the cart, he was back out there today, winning this 1v1 rep here against Najee Johnson, who slipped on the route. Toney reportedly worked a lot with the third-team offense today, with McCole Hardman mainly with the second. Side note, McCole had a great catch here, going up to get it as he crossed the field, adjusting nicely to this pass from Carson Wentz. McCole so far has been having a pretty good camp. But back to Toney. While I'd say I need to see how Toney does during preseason, it appears for now that his stock is falling just a bit. They also still appear to be ramping him back up, as he only did individual work yesterday, but was working during teams today. However, with him primarily working in the third-team offense, I'm not sure that's a huge confidence booster for me in regards to where Toney's at in camp from a stock standpoint. I still think he has a pretty good chance of making the roster. I mean, this guy has a $2.5 million cap hit, and you do not save any by moving on from him. But let's see how things look over the next week or so and how preseason goes for Toney. Then, for the second day in a row, I got to bring this up. Toney left practice early in front of the cart. Both days, it didn't appear to be a medical or injury issue, but maybe they're easing him in and the plan isn't yet to have him out there for the full practice. Honestly, that's my best guess, but it was at least worth noting. Another receiver worth noting is Rashee Rice, who spoke with the media today, and I believe this is his first public interview with KC Media since his legal trouble started months back. And when asked about his legal issues and whether or not the NFL has spoken with him or his lawyer about things, Rice kept it short and sweet by responding, "It's still a legal process and my team is handling that." He was then asked another question about the suspension and how he's preparing for things by Nate Taylor, and he repeated the same answer. So we're not going to hear anything from Rice about how things are going, that's for sure. I mean, what is he honestly supposed to say anyway? It's all on camera. He knows he messed up big time. Plus, we all know a suspension is indeed incoming. It's just a matter of when will said suspension happen. Anyway, Rice said his chemistry with Mahomes has grown this offseason as he enters year 2. And it's pretty evident when he's out there on the practice field. Mahomes hit him for at least 2 connects today in teams, with Pat slinging it here to Rice, who found a soft spot in the coverage, turning upfield quickly. The Yak Merchant is very good at that. Then on this play, Mahomes hit him on a very familiar shallow crosser with Jalen Watson trailing in coverage. And even though Rice bobbled the pass, he was able to haul it in for the completion. Rice then went on to speak a bit about the wide receiver room today, calling it electric. They are ready to go out there and put on a show this season. The main thing Rice is currently working on is being the best person he can be for the team so they can come together and dominate. He's helping his teammates in Hollywood and Worthy as well, and they've all been growing together. I mean, Hollywood Brown is obviously a vet in the game, and while it is his first year in the system, he's been doing nothing but showing out thus far. He had this incredible catch in 1v1s today, adjusting to an underthrown pass, yet still hauling it in after using one hand to knock it down and corral it with Keith Taylor on him in coverage. Hollywood also had this awesome catch against Brian Cook, tracking a deep ball down to perfection, which is something you love to see, especially when you compare this year's wide receiver room to last year's, at least so far in training camp. Then for Xavier Worthy, while he's typically been a deep ball highlight type of guy at camp, I like the way they used him on this play here as he turned out and up toward the sideline, turning on the jets to corral the pass from Mahomes before he went out of bounds. His teammate Rice said Hollywood and Worthy will be taking the top off of defenses a lot this year. That won't always be the case. They can mix things up, and Rice can also take the top off. They used him like that in college from time to time, and with Rice understanding more at the NFL level, they could surprise people every now and again by sending Rice deep, depending on the coverage shown by their opponents. He did that last year, recognizing he'd be one-on-one down the right sideline, so instead of running his short hitch route, he took off sprinting, and Mahomes connected with Rice for a 67-yard gain against the Bengals, which was the longest pass play of the season for the Chiefs. From here, I want to take a look at the state of the running back room because it's starting to take a very interesting turn. Let's start with the running back fullback hybrid Carson Steele, who's working in at running back, fullback, and even tight end today. Allchiefdup said he had some solid reps in pass pro along with a nice catch today. He also took a screen pass to the house. Then he even got some work in with the first team today. A great sign for Steele stock as he aims to make this roster by doing enough to tempt Andy Reid to bring back a fullback into the offense after not having one last year. And I will say, if Steele impresses enough in pass protection, this could actually be a reality. To have a guy built like a fullback, but can also move like a running back, catching passes out of the backfield, and even being used as a tight end at times, that's some pretty interesting versatility there for Andy Reid to have fun with on offense. Plus, Steele would probably be used heavily on special teams as well. Then when you combine all that with the fact that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is dealing with health issues that could affect his consistency, Ron Kopp Jr. has a great point here. He said you can't bank on a 17-game season from CEH, not only due to that, but he's also had a tough time staying physically healthy for a full season as it is. And that is why Pete Sweeney of Arrowhead Pride believes that both Deneric Prince and Carson Steele will be on the initial 53-man roster. With Steele, it's his versatility on offense, his physicality and pass protection, and would-be special teams usage. For Prince, he could be a guy that splits time with Isaiah Pacheco, getting some of the workhorse reps, which will allow Pacheco to have a breather at times and also allow him to be used in other other creative ways out of the backfield. Don't get me wrong, I think Pacheco is going to be RB1. He'll run the ball quite a bit, but still, with his violent running style, it might be a good thing to offset his workload just a bit with Prince. Prince has continued to be the guy to get reps immediately after Pacheco all training camp long, primarily working with the first team offense. Kind of like Kingsley Suamataia. He's been working at the starting left tackle spot all training camp long. So right now, in my eyes, Kingsley's spot is his to lose, and I think that goes the same for Prince, at least as the RB2, RB3. I mean, think about it. The Chiefs had Prince cooking on the practice squad last year, so they've been keeping a close eye on him, and if they are happy enough with his progress, especially in pass pro, I don't see why Prince doesn't make the roster this season. Of course, we need to see him during preseason games because he had a lot of hype to his name last year, but struggled during the preseason. Prince himself actually spoke to the media today, saying multiple times how important pass pro has been for him in his training this offseason. He knows that's what the team is looking for out of him the most, and that's been his biggest focus in the lead up to camp and also during camp practices so far. He's working on his hands, his technique, and taking things from Pacheco. Pop's been a great leader, and he's just following him. Prince also made some plays catching passes out of the backfield during camp as he aims to be an all-around back for the team, like Pacheco. After all, in the Chiefs offense, you gotta kind of be willing to do it all. So let me know your thoughts on the running back situation as it stands right now. Do you think the Chiefs could possibly roll with 4 running backs, with those being Pacheco, Prince, CEH, and Carson Steele? And in order to do that, they'd probably have to roll with 3 tight ends, but those could be Kelce, Gray, and Wiley, with Irv Smith Jr. the odd man out. I feel like that's only if they are high enough on Carson Steele. Obviously, that could technically also be 3 running backs and a fullback, but potato there. Now, that also leaves the Welshman LRZ out of the picture for the time being and not on the roster. So let me know your thoughts there. It's certainly going to be a very interesting battle down to the wire. Next up, like Deneric Prince, another player heading into year 2 with the team is linebacker Drue Tranquill. Obviously, Tranquill is the definite starter here. He's a guy that's really come out of his shell this offseason, with Spags saying it's evident how much Drue loves football. He loves being out there and has been an energy guy for the defense that the rest of the guys on that side of the ball feed off of. Tranquill's been making plays during camp too. He had an INT that he took to the house yesterday, I believe, and could be seen coming to the defense of linebacker Jack Cochran during a scuffle yesterday after Rice threw a football at Cochran. He's also reportedly been talking smack in a pretty friendly way to the offense all training camp long, has had some very epic and fun 1v1 reps against Isaiah Pacheco in pass protection, and even today had a PBU on a pass from Mahomes that was intended for Travis Kelce. And after the play, Kelce hyped Drue up a bit for making a nice play there, and iron does sharpen iron indeed. Now, a guy that the offense feeds off of is Travis Kelce, and he could be seen catching this pass in the middle of the field that was helped by a little play action. And immediately after Kelce caught the ball, he lateraled it way over to the right sideline once again to running back Isaiah Pacheco, who took it for a few extra yards up the field. This is the second time this week Kelce has done something very similar via a lateral to Pacheco. So you know it's going to happen in a game. Another tight end who could be seen having a great rep was the rookie Jared Wiley against Drue Tranquill. He caused Drue to bite on his outside shake and quickly moved inside for an easy catch and run against a great coverage linebacker. And he may or may not have pushed off a little bit there, but it was within 5 yards and probably not getting flagged. Obviously, it's just a 1v1 rep, but this is the stuff you love to see from the tight end that KC just drafted in the 4th round. And that's why I cannot wait for the Chiefs' first preseason game, which is this Saturday, August 10th at 6 p.m. against the Jags. There's so many position battles to keep an eye on, and per usual, I'll be doing a live play-by-play reaction stream here on the channel and hope to see you there. So until next time, tomorrow after practice, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?